Okay, warm welcome to the joint plenary session of the Society for the Anthropology of Religion Biennial Conference, as well as the International Society for the Study of Religion, Nature, and Culture Conference of 2025. I'm Mayfair Yang. I'm the president of the Society of the Study for the Anthropology of Religion. I'm a professor in the Religious Studies Department and the East Asian Languages and Cultural Studies Department here at UC Santa Barbara. So warm welcome to everybody. And my collaborator here is Lisa Sedaris. Lisa, you want to introduce yourself? Yeah.
Here a few minutes ago I did introduce myself. I'm Lisa Sedaris. I'm the president of the International Society for the Study of Religion, Nature, and Culture. And I'm a professor of environmental studies here at UC Santa Barbara with affiliation in the Religious Studies Department. So if you weren't here a few minutes ago, many of you weren't, welcome, especially welcome those of you who are coming from SAR to the ISSRNC.
Yeah. So before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge that we are holding these two joint conferences overlapping in the plenary as well as the keynote distinguished lecture for today, this afternoon. We're holding these two conferences on the unceded land originally belonging to the Chumash people of Central California. As we enjoy the privilege and beauty of these plains, mountains, forests, and waters of Santa Barbara, we remember that the Chumash have been separated from these lands, unable to maintain their traditional livelihoods and lifeways freely. Although they are very much vibrant and active today. In fact, they have been active in helping to create the Chumash Marine Sanctuary just offshore where those waters will be protected. Still, they have experienced a lot of difficulties, so we want to acknowledge that we are on their land. Our first speaker is Professor Yih-Ren Lin, and we first want to express our gratitude for the co-sponsorship of the UCSB Center for Taiwan Studies in bringing Professor Lin here to UCSB. Professor Lin was born in Taiwan and received his PhD in geography at University College London, where he also received his MSc degree in biology. His academic expertise includes sociocultural analysis of nature, also cultural geography, environmental humanities, political ecology, traditional ecological knowledge of indigenous people, and especially in Taiwan, as well as among other Austronesian people across the Pacific. And he also engages in participatory action research and ecology and healthcare. In all of these fields, he has published extensively. Currently, he's a professor at two institutions in Taiwan, the Institute of Museum Studies and Taipei National University of the Arts. So I don't have this memorized, sorry. Here at the latter institution, he serves as director of the Aboriginal Student Resource Center, and he also serves on the editorial boards of several academic journals, such as Taiwan Humanities and Social Sciences, Art Review, and the Institute of Ethnology's Academia Sinica's Taiwan Anthropology Journal. He's also the director of Social Development, Culture, and Education Foundation of Taiwan. So let's welcome Professor Lin, Yih-Ren Lin, to give our first plenary lecture.
Can you hear me? This is my first time to California. I feel so honored and so happy that I have the chance to come to California and attend such a great conference. I am Yih-Ren Lin from Taiwan. I'm very thankful to Professor Yang to provide me such an opportunity to attend the conference. I met Professor Yang last year in the workshop of Taiwan, and then we have a wonderful chance to go to the cypress forest in Taiwan, which is the remnant forest that hasn't been cut by Japanese when Japanese colonized Taiwan and then cut off so many cypress forests and take the timber, the very good quality of the timber for the use. And some of the best quality of the timber was sent back to Japan to build a shrine. Okay. Today I'm going to offer is about the reflections and learning that I have got from my indigenous people's friends in Taiwan. This is some of the important outcomes over the past 25 years engaging with indigenous environmental movement of Taiwan. As you may know, Taiwan has come out of the highly authoritarian political regime some 40 years ago. The indigenous social movement has never alienated from such a political context and worked closely with other social movements for seeking a democracy. More importantly, indigenous movements issues are always related to the land issues. As a scholar in the academia, I choose to adopt an action research working with indigenous peoples and face the questions they think importantly, so that I participate in the works of launching a co-management national park with Taiwan people, the third largest group of indigenous people in Taiwan, facilitating the mapping of their traditional territory, revitalizing their traditional ecological knowledge, reconstruction after the natural disasters like typhoon and earthquake, and thinking about the resilient livelihood under the impact of climate change. You may think these issues are all belonging to the terrain of political ecology. How come they have any relevance to their religious belief and spirituality? Let me begin with the following story. It is a story from Bunun tribe in Taiwan. The story starts from a provocative challenge from my Bunun graduate students, Nicole. One day he asked me why we always like to call J Mountain, which is the highest mountain in Taiwan, a sacred mountain. Is it because it is highest, or is it because she is very beautiful, or because of its rich biodiversity? His question is direct, so that I cannot easily avoid. However, at the moment, I myself cannot find a suitable explanation to him since I never think it seriously. I think most of the Taiwanese are like me. Then he continues to tell me Bunun people has a sacred story about the mountain, which the mainstream society doesn't know about. In Bunun's language, the J mountain is called Donggu Saviak. Donggu means mountain, and Saviak means the sheltering and the saving place. They believe it is the mountain that helps them to survive from the great flood. The whole story contains many memories of Bunun people in many different variations. I encourage him to write them down. It then becomes the prize-winning book of his, namely The Legend of Donggu Saviak. The publisher liked to promote it in a way of calling it the Bunun version of the Lord of the Rings. According to the legend, the rise and retreat of the Great Flood is resulted from the giant animals that obstruct the flow of the river. The Bunun and Zhou people both believe that the rise of the Great Flood is due to a giant eel that blocks the flow of the river. So the peoples need to escape to the high mountains for seeking their survival. Interestingly, the retreat of the Great Flood is also caused by the animal. It is a giant crab that fights with the giant eel and defeats it. Therefore, the flood is retreated. If we regard these mythical figures as different forces of nature, we could find nature is always so close to the daily life of indigenous peoples and could be both a threat or a help. Again, when Bunun people escaped to the higher place from not being drowned, it was at that time different animals come for the help. They tried to pick the fire sticks from the other high mountain tops so that the people can keep warm and cook food. Finally, a beautiful, colorful bird achieved the task. However, it paid for the price. The whole body of the bird got burned by the fire stick so that its body becomes black, and the feet and the beak turn red due to the burn. Then Neko told me the reason why the mountain becomes sacred to his people. It is because they are salvation stories. They are stories that connect human being with nature. To him, the bird is just like the Greek mythological hero Prometheus, to take the fire for the human being. The only difference is in Greek mythology, it's about God and human being. But in Bunun, it's quite the relationship between human being and nature. More importantly, Bunun's stories are related to the people's dwelling. The Great Flood story is not uncommon, but rather quite widespread in different indigenous tribes of Taiwan, even more in the rest of the world, like the famous Noah's Ark in the Bible. Today, my talk will start from this story. My subject is about eco-spirituality and indigenous peoples of Taiwan. The philosopher Thomas Berry is famous for promoting spiritual ecology. He said, eco-spirituality is an approach to faith that celebrates humanity's connection to the natural world. Eco-spirituality can manifest in many world religions and usually seeks to link the tenets of specific belief system to the sacredness of the earth. Spirituality quite often will refer to something mysterious and abstract. However, from my long-time collaboration with Taiwan's indigenous peoples, I have found indigenous peoples' understandings about spirituality is always connected to the ground, to the material world, to the natural world. It is evident from Thomas Berry's definition about eco-spirituality. As he said, the linkage between a specific belief system to the sacredness of the world, of the earth. More interestingly, the characteristics of eco-spirituality are often expressed through different forms of storytelling. From my experiences, the most joyful time when I stay in the indigenous villages is sitting around the fire, listening to the elders' storytelling, and singing, dancing with them at night. It was the moment the eco-spirituality emerged and turned the whole space into a kind of sacredness. Environmental philosopher Holmes Rostand III used the term storied residence to describe the kind of sense of place. Furthermore, he indicates humans cultivate according to their historical and geographical background, to the topography and cultural environment where they live and within which their personal history evolves. In essence, he describes the human-nature relationship as a process of home finding. The home finding through a way of story residence Does it have any relevance to the subject of eco-spirituality? This is what I want to argue about. In the following, I want to extend my discussion to a ritual often seen in the Taiwan people traditional daily practices. It is called SAR Lai. Indigenous people have rich knowledge about their living place. The real problem is the colonizers don't recognize it. For the recent 2 decades or so, there is a significant progress in Taiwan for the dialogue between the government and the indigenous peoples. So followed by the changes of policies according to the autonomous development of the peoples. In fact, there is much to be learned from the indigenous knowledge. For example, the rituals, myths, and stories. In Taiwan culture, when they begin to grow millets, hunting, or embarking on the things they need to do it together, they will have a ritual called SAR Lai. Its meaning is to seek reconciliation and to seek the truth. They believe a real reconciliation needs to be based on the truth. The term is also employed by the former President Tsai Ing-wen in her address of apology to indigenous peoples in 2016, when it reflects in a daily life like agriculture activity. They will hold the ritual SAR Lai to reconcile with the living beings, with land, including their ancestors' spirits, birds, worms, trees, and so on. It is due to their relationship to the health and the whole of the land. I find this ritual has strong sense about the interconnectedness from the ecological thinking. Not just that, it echoes some practices related to transformative justice and respecting and honoring others. The ritual of SAR Lai to reveal the truth and reconciliation leads to the whole process of millets growing and its relationship with Taiwan people. It connects different significant cultural practices, such as ecological naming, rituals, material practice, social institution, and identities formation. For example, when the spring comes, they watch the blossoming of cherry trees as the indicator to start the millet growing. They are not like Chinese farmers who need to check the lunar calendar. Rather, they look for what I call the eco-others. The modern ecological scientists will call it phenology, which literally means biological species respond to the cycling of the seasons and weather. Taiwan people find there is a resonance between cherry trees and millets. Besides, there is ritual related to the star, which is called Sma'atu. Shifting cultivation is accompanied by the millet growing practice. The use of fire to burn the bushes and shrubs in lands that have rest for a while is another example to link the eco-others in the millet growing process. For using fire, you have to be aware of the direction of wind blowing, humidity, and the knowledge how to terrace the land so that soil erosion could be prevented. These are critical ecological knowledge of millet growing. More importantly, many different eco-others things are connected so that we can feel the tempo and rhythm of the eco-spirituality. In the shifting agriculture, they need not use chemical fertilizers and instead adopting very natural farming practice. When they left the millet land for growing several years and soil fertility is decreasing, they will normally grow tree species with nitrogen fixation roots. They also grow bamboo for their future use. The picture tries to show you the resting millet land rather than bamboo forest. It look like a forest, but it is the millet field. I look closely about the terracing stones for the evidence as an old used Miller land. Based on the shift in agriculture of Taiwan people, we know that the people will migrate in terms of such an ecological living style. The conceptual map intends to show you Taiwan's traditional territory system is actually developed through their migration. Much special details are actually revealed through the singing of an old tune called the Mahu. The Mahu, often misunderstood as a singing art and being ignored that it is actually a singing map. More importantly, it contains many moral teachings. For example, in the singing, the elders reveal, don't forget the origin. Every water has its head. Though we separate, we are a family. Sharing is a prime principle. Taiwan migrate by mountain ridges and river. They will use the water basin between the river and the mountain ridges. When they arrive at a residence place, they tend to split in small groups with several households. The term Binhavan means an emergent and temporary united social organization. Its mechanism is to facilitate their help of each other. In ordinary daily life, they live separately as a family group, but for some emergency, they will unite to defend their common crisis. When a household established, they will practice a shift in cultivation in quite a large area. Therefore, the territory concept develops. For after a long period of migrating in different places of the area, they will come back to the first place they inhabited. Similar to the Miller field done by shifting cultivation, the hunting ground develops to a larger area. In addition to individual and family hunting ground, they have shared hunting ground. So the houses, cultivation fields, and the hunting grounds constituted within a water basin and delineated by the river and mountain ridges, therefore become their traditional territory. To Taiwan, the traditional territory has to be seen from a time-space dynamics. This map showed you the traditional territory concept of Taiwan culture. Along the big river, Taiwan names different sections of it and build up their local identities with related sections. For example, this river that you can see that there are at least 4 groups of Taiwan people, including Gnazi, Mklakwang, Gogan, and Mastunu. In this map, we can see the different colors that show different subgroups resulted from their migratory history. It is done in several hundred years, within several hundred years. Nobel Prize winner Elinor Ostrom and his friend Fricke Berkes both regard the traditional ecological knowledge need to be operated within a socio-ecological system. To me, the Taiwan people's Miller narratives seem to be a good example to illustrate it. Socio-ecological system is, as Redmond described, a coherent system of biophysical and social factors that regularly interact in a resilient and sustained manner. A system that is defined at the several special temporal organizational scales, which may be hierarchically linked. A set of critical resources whose flow and use is regulated by a combination of ecological and social systems, a perpetually dynamic, complex system with continuous adaptation. Not just that, in this talk, I would like to share with you the whole socio-ecological system. If the Miller's narratives are qualified, the theme of eco-spirituality that is operated within these different material and social practice counts a great deal. The sacredness, as I can tell from the teachings of my indigenous elders, is not abstract and above the land, but rather it is closely linked to the land, to the life nourished by the environment. The relationship of human being and the environment achieved through the power of eco-spirituality is the contents of Holmes Rostand III's story Residence, and also a good illustration of his conception about the home finding. At last, in the talk, I want to show you my indigenous Taiwan friends, their image about how the relations could be. This is their traditional millet field and their livelihood. As you can see, they have their shelter from protecting their family members and storing the food. In the millet field, it's not just millet, but also beans, taros, sweet potato, corns, and so on. If you notice carefully, you can see the traps, snares that can catch small animals. Alarming devices are designed to scare the birds. When there are crops growing, they attract birds and small mammals to feed. So they will also catch them for animal proteins. Moreover, the millet field is the center of the whole livelihood and then extends to the forest and their traditional territory. This is the story about the millets. Through millets, they have managed to connect with so many different eco-others and establish an eco-web of different materials and living species, and within which the Taiwan people play a critical role, not just to participate with them, but also to reveal them through storytellings and through their intention to do the home finding to Taiwan people. The sacredness resides everywhere they make the connection with the world. To me, this is a kind of indigenous eco-spirituality that I like to share with you today. Thank you very much.